You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, I recently sat down with the founder of Venmo. A lot of y'all, we talk about Cash App and PayPal. Well, Venmo is a very successful app. His name is Iqram Magdon-Ismail. We were at a culture shift in New York City, and here's what he had to say. First and foremost, how valuable are events such as this, especially for people of color, folks who have been left out of this whole BC world?
Incredibly valuable, including for me, to help me come and participate with people that I want to interact with more. That I necessarily can't find them. But how do I meet these people? Come here.
And being in this space, the reality is this is probably the fourth time I've been at a culture shift event, and it's crazy because you're dealing with folks who are essentially unicorns in some places. Like, oh, all of a sudden I'm seeing people who look like me that I don't see on an everyday basis.
Right. Yeah, and for I make angel investments, and already I've met 2 or 3 founders that came up to me with their idea. I'm wearing this I Am Bold shirt. I learned about the Salesforce diversity program here, and maybe I'll be participating in that way. And it's something I'm leaving this thinking I want more of this, and the more that happens like this, the better it is for the world.
What do you look for when you're looking to invest? Is it one particular area, or are you just looking at great ideas across the board?
Great ideas. Actually, for me, it starts with great people, people that I can get along with, I can vibe with, people that can crash on my couch or I can crash on theirs. Those are the types of people I like to work with.
That'd be interesting. All of a sudden, saying, "So, what kind of couch do you have?" And they're probably looking at you going, "I'm sorry, what the hell? What kind of couch do I have?" Like,
you never.
Is it a comfortable couch? Is it a large couch?
You never know.
Is it
when,
leather?
Right, exactly. You never know when you're going to need a favor or you're going to need someone to help you. Your life can go from right there to rock bottom, to the middle, rock bottom, and you need people that you can work with that are willing to go through all of those waves with you.
We are 24 years away from this nation becoming a nation majority of people of color. And I keep making the argument that if you look at the current economic trends, you look at the current investing trends, we're going to be in many ways like South Africa, where you have whites who own 9% of the land, but whites make up 9% of the population, own 17% of the land. Where you're going to have when you have black women who start business at a faster rate than anybody else in America,
right?
But get 0.2% of venture capital dollars,
which is crazy.
And so, and people keep looking at me like I'm crazy when I say this in my speeches. I'm like, guys, you don't understand. I said 24 years is not a long time,
right?
And
no,
and I'm trying to sound the alarm,
and it's accelerating,
right? And I'm trying to sound this alarm because that's going to be a problem to have 53% of America being Latino, Black, Asian, and other, and having 80 and 90% of dollars going to non-minorities. That's going to be an issue.
That will be an issue, but I'm on the same boat with you, where I think there's definitely a culture shift happening, and not only that, the leaders are changing, and the decision makers are changing, and it's only a matter of time until you walk into an office or you walk into a place like Salesforce, and you can kind of, let me give you I never expected to walk into Salesforce and see this. I just didn't. Salesforce seems like a very dry, boring place to be.
He's thinking dry and white. You didn't really want to say that, but like, I was thinking dry.
But I'm kind of shocked. Look at the shirt I'm wearing. And so there's definitely going to be a shift in the next few decades where it's going to be all colors running the world.
But also I think it requires leaders today, white men. To be honest, I use this example all the time. John Landgraf, the president of FX Networks, a study was done that showed 12% of all the directors on his networks were white men. Excuse me, were people of color and women. He said, I'm sorry, white men cannot be 88% of the directors
on our
shows. He sends an email out saying this has to change.
I've even heard Forbes TV is changing.
2 years later,
wow,
it was more than 50%. And he said, as a white man, he said, I love my fellow white men. He said, but that's not America. So
Right.
as a leader, he said, this has to change, and it did.
Right. Great. Good for him. I support that decision wholeheartedly. Yeah. No, well said.
In terms of leadership, let's speak to that. In your space, being the leader, and obviously looking at the phrase "I am bold," but also stating this is where we're going. I really think the only way this changes is when leaders collectively begin to say there has to be a shift. We cannot continue to do business as usual, keep calling our friends, keep calling the people who we know.
Right.
Otherwise, it is not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
Are you also seeing that same thing happen internationally?
You know, I have to give credit, specifically I have to give credit to New York City for being a cultural hub where everyone is intermingling and people, very little judgment. I'm not seeing it as much internationally from the places I've been. And you know, you got places like the Middle East that are not, they don't support these decisions. You've got China, for example, which is very closed. Like they want their own blockchain world, and then the rest of the world has to do their own thing, which is, you know, and there's a lot of suppression of women taking place all over the world that if I had, so for me, I've just, because I come from Zimbabwe,
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Uganda, I lived in Zambia, I've spent time in Sri Lanka, Morocco, I've been all over the place. I purposely put myself in New York City because if I had to pick a place to live where I could participate in fixing some of the problems, I feel like I can make the most progress here. And hopefully that would trickle into the rest of the world. Because there's a lot of great thinking that takes place everywhere, and every place has their challenges. But here, where we are today, is an example of how something can proliferate across the globe in a way that's inclusive, accepting, and better for humanity as a whole.
Several of the countries you mentioned were obviously located in Africa, and I think one of the things that I ought to remind people here is a colonial rule.
Don't get me, I'm from Zimbabwe, Mugabe, who passed away,
No, that's my point. My point is that when we talk about in this country, I use example, this is 400 years since the transatlantic slave trade began. If you use 1970 as the marker, African Americans have only been free for 49 years. Most people don't realize most African nations didn't achieve their freedom until in the 1960s. So you're dealing with countries that are still relatively new, being democratic now.
Sure.
And so you think about the growing pains. You think about, Colin Powell talks about it all the time, how you have to go through. You're not talking about countries that are 200 and 300 years old.
Right.
They're that old, but in terms of not being under that sort of colonial rule.
Right. You know, yeah. I mean, when I was born, 1983, 36. Thank you. When I was born, I was in the year where Rhodesia was transitioning into Zimbabwe, and the founder of Zimbabwe is Robert Mugabe, and he unified a group of people to convert the whole of Zimbabwe to, he's regarded as a revolutionary because he made that shift. And now you hear a lot of, you know, so he passed away,
right,
and someone, you know, took over, and a lot of people view Zimbabwe as chaotic and a mess and da 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 da. Like you look at the West, they're all coming in like, let's make some deals, da 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 da. And I'm like, you have to respect what he did, not only for Zimbabwe but for all of Africa, and for someone like me who came here. When I came here when I was 14, that's why I wear this shirt proudly. I'm bold because to get into the room with a bunch of Silicon Valley investors, you have to be bold. To get into the room as a bunch of Silicon Valley investors from Zimbabwe, Uganda, you got to be crazy. And that was Robert Mugabe, and that's what he taught a lot of the people there, the confidence where you are the leader, day one. And all this colonial stuff is going to fade away, and that's also going to accelerate.
Right.
And a lot of the people that participated in that, they kind of feel bad. They're like, and you can see it, and they're like, what the fuck did we do? Sorry, pardon my language. You're editing.
No, my show's called Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Oh, okay, great.
I own it, so.
Even better.
Plus it's allowed.
Great. I love that. Verbal freedom.
Yes. Yeah. I own it. All I can do is ask myself.
That's great.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, we have to fight off this whole, and wherever I see it, in places where, you know, there's that old ancient colonial vibe, you gotta. I fight it immediately. It triggers me, because those are the people that are suppressing all of the progress that's taking place.
Absolutely.
Especially nowadays. So.
All right. That sounds good. Good chatting with you.
Good chatting with you too. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Yep.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, join Dr. Jackie Hood Martin as she engages others to think like a leader. Are you looking to enhance your leadership or that of your team in 2020? Well, you can join her newest online course and mastermind group, How Successful People Think. She'll be your guide as you learn timeless leadership principles to apply to daily living. The offer expires February 28th. To register, go to www.livetolead.com/Leesburg. It's LIVE number 2, LEAD.com/Leesburg. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.